I always forget. And then hit start webinar. So if you guys, I don't know how many times you've done like Zoom meetings and that kind of stuff, but like at the bottom bar, if you hit like chat and then hit participants and that kind of stuff, it kind of shows up on the right hand corner. Hey everybody, thank you for coming.
Hello.
We kind of like give people a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to kind of come in. Hey everybody, and we kind of hi, hello, Savannah, Georgia. Oh, people already
Oh, from
know.
Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, this is exciting.
Yeah. I mean, like people are kind of coming from. What's up, Alex?
Oh,
Uh,
from India. Hello, Chicago,
Puerto
Colombia.
Rico. People already know. I always ask like
Yes.
people to like shout out where they're from. And
Indonesia.
Oh, from Seattle. I'm from Seattle too. Hello,
what? Are
Seattleites.
you? I'm from
Yeah.
Seattle.
Ooh.
No.
I did not know that.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
cool. We have
Pacific
to talk about
Northwest.
that after.
Yes, we should.
Um, Seattle people, Mexico,
I
slow.
appreciate the people from India who are still awake.
Oh yeah, what time is it
Yeah,
over there? It
I
must
think it's
be
like 12:30.
Someone said like
crazy time.
midnight.
12:30 a.m. p.m. Sorry, p.m.
AM.
a.m. Oh, okay. Oh,
So
well, thank you guys for coming.
From Bristol, England.
Yeah, from Spain.
Anybody out there
Uh,
from Taiwan?
Yeah,
is
I was
everybody?
about to ask.
I was gonna say. We're all in LA now, but like, where did you guys? What was the most recent city before LA that you guys were coming from? Naveen, you were you from somewhere else in California, or was it India?
uh, I grew up in India.
Hmm.
I studied art in San Francisco. So I lived in Bay Area for
Oh, got
a
it.
few
Oh, yeah,
years.
I knew that.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I
yeah. Got it. Okay, cool.
My parents are from Taiwan, but
Yeah.
I was raised in the US until we went to Shanghai for 7 years when I was a kid. But the last place I was at was in Atlanta. I went to school at
Whoa.
SCAD.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. I feel like I knew that. Yeah. SCAD.
Maybe.
Shout out to SCAD. Any SCAD folks in here? I don't know. Probably not.
There's someone from Savannah, Georgia, so maybe.
and then Christine you're Seattle native?
Uh, okay. Well, I spent my childhood in Eastern Washington in a very small area called the Tri-Cities.
Oh, yeah.
And then I moved up to Seattle for school. So I spent about like a little bit over 10 years in Seattle. That's where I like met my husband. He's a Seattle native
Mhm.
as well. He grew up on Capitol Hill kind of area.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where I was. I was in Seattle before I moved to LA.
Got it. Did you we can kind of get into this, but like Seattle, downtown Seattle? Or
Yes.
just kind of on the outskirts?
Well, so I lived all over Seattle. I mean, I went to UW. So for the first couple of
Oh,
years, I lived in the U District.
okay.
And then, I mean, I probably won't get into this, but I lived in a haunted house for a little while. I mean, a real
Ooh.
haunted
In a haunted
house.
house?
Yes. Oh, UW, let's go. Yeah, what's up? Go dogs. So I rented this
Go job.
super cool old historical house on Capitol Hill on 10th.
That's pretty rad.
And it was kind of set back in this grove of trees. I'm not going to get too much into it, but my roommates and I were convinced that it was haunted. And then I lived over in Bellevue for a couple of years
Got it.
on the east side.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah, that's it. Moved here.
Awesome. Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know. Good to know. I'm surprised. Amber, I didn't know that you're from Atlanta, and
Yeah.
I didn't know you're from Seattle. But then again, we've never met before, and we don't even really know each other, so that's fine. But it's great to meet you. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. Catherine, how can I find? Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is going to be fun, and and uh, and I hope that you guys get a lot out of it. Bizdev is one of the most signed up for disciplines at Rise Up Animation. Was that where are you pointing at?
Oh, somebody, Nikki Sharp said she liked my Kill la Kill poster.
Oh, is that what that is? Oh,
Yeah. Big
nice.
big Studio Trigger fan.
Yeah.
Me
Everyone
too.
has an amazing background except for me. I look like I am in a like storage unit. Um,
I think your background looks clean.
Yeah,
looks
exactly.
clean,
There's
but,
nothing
like,
distracting back there, you know?
yeah, you can kind of roller skate around if you wanted to, but there's like nothing out there. It looks like I'm either like squatting in someone's house or like moving out, and none of that is true. Um, but yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Like I say, like Bizdev is one of the most like signed up for disciplines, and rightfully so. I mean, like you know, for all the beautiful work that people are putting out there, and so we're honored to pair with and work with DreamWorks Animation, both TV and feature, for this panel. And yeah, thank you guys for coming. Thank you, panelists. This is gonna be fun. So welcome everybody. Gonna do my quick introductions of everyone on the panel. I'll start out with Amber Aki
Yeah.
Huang. Hey Amber.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. Amber is a visual development artist for DreamWorks Television Animation, as well as a character designer for Supercell Games, which is
Yeah.
dang cool and probably keeping you busy, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, there's a lot there.
Amber's also worked with many animation studios such as Netflix, Glow in the Dark Studios, I know them, Cartoon Network, PBS Kids, and more. So thank you, Amber, for
No
and
problem.
introducing your cats to us. People
Well,
are talking about your cats. I don't see any
they
cats.
came by earlier. That's why.
Oh, okay. How many cats do you have?
I have two.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Naveen Selvanathan is a visual development artist at DreamWorks Animation, and he's previously worked at Sony Pictures Animation on such films as Into the Spider-Verse. I've heard of that one. Hotel T, 3, The Smurfs, The Emoji Movie, and Connected, upcoming Connected. So Naveen also teaches a class at the CG Master Academy online on color and light.
Not anymore.
Was that?
I used to teach. Not
You used
anymore.
to teach? Oh, okay. I pulled that from your site.
Yeah, okay.
But you really? Oh, you stopped? Oh, okay. I was just gonna say I should take that class. And Christine Bian is currently an art director at DreamWorks TV Animation on the Fast and the Furious series. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
Yay! And has previously worked as a design supervisor. Whoa, man! On the Voltron series.
Yes, that's right.
Man, those characters look complicated to draw, but well. And Christine has also worked at Sony Pictures Animation, Disney Publishing, and Nickelodeon, and Fancy Flight Games, just to name a few. That's cool. That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Bobby. And love the Rise Up animation and what you're doing. And yeah, just such an honor to be here.
People freaking out about Voltron.
Oh, geez.
And I need to catch up on it, dude.
Well, it's all on Netflix, guys. You know.
Everything's on Netflix, guys.
That's right. Check
all
it out.
Things. And so we kind of wanted to thank you guys for coming again. We wanted to take this time to maybe do a little bit of an art show and tell. So if everyone's ready to do that a little bit and share their screens, we can start out with Amber. If you wanted to go first, what do you think?
Absolutely. I
Awesome.
am
Thank
ready.
you.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just one of my public portfolios. This is Pebbles and Breadcrumb. This is something that I actually created back in 2017. But this is actually, I think, the portfolio that got DreamWorks really interested in me for the first part. But I'll just show a little bit. This is more like to show like examples of Bizdev work that I've done, character work. A lot of the work that I do for DreamWorks, unfortunately, is still very much under NDA. So I can only show this kind of stuff. And I want to show real quickly, this is like professional work, but I also, if you guys know, I have an Instagram. This is where I put a lot more like casual work, personal work, just for fun stuff. We have my leopard gecko, Marmalade there, Dear Cat and Snoo. They're two characters that people really seem to love. They've become like a whole merchandise line, all of that. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite pieces, I guess. But this is Multi-Tiger, Dear Cat and Snoo. I think people would recognize that. Yeah, so that is a very brief look at my artwork. I think I'll pass it off to Naveen.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber.
No problem.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So these are some of my recent paintings. So I was just, no, I changed from one topic to another. Now I'm just painting a few of the scenes from India, like a lot of the urban scenes. So I was just inspired by all the random cows that you see on the streets in India. So some of that. This is, oops. Yeah, this is like a fortune-telling cow that visits houses to wish you well. So.
Oh, that's cute. We have something like that in Taiwan, but instead of a cow, it's like the lucky dragon or the lucky lion, I want to say, and you feed it cabbage so that it gives you like good fortune and stuff for the new year.
Cool. Yeah, this one, it just kind of puts its head on your head and blesses you. We are the same with an elephant too. So I think I was trying to show the chaos and the craziness in some of the cities. This is the blessing elephant.
Nice.
Cows again. I have one camel.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. That's great.
Like a camel that I drew yesterday.
Yeah, I saw this.
And yeah, this is like a Hanuman in New Delhi. It's like he just kind of, somebody built it in the middle of the city, and I don't know how it came there. Nobody approved it, so it's like an unapproved, huge Hanuman statue. So that was kind of interesting. Monkey temple.
Have you been there to that monkey temple?
I went to this place. It's in Rajasthan. It's a city in North India. I've been there as a child, so I've seen monkeys, but I don't really remember where I saw the temple and the monkeys. But now it's I just found it online that I could make the connection.
Awesome.
Monkey. Yeah, it's a monkey that goes to work. They use this monkey to chase the other smaller monkeys that create a chaos. So this is like a large, angry monkey.
This guy is living my ideal life. This is what I aspire to do. Ride a bike with a monkey with a fez on the back tire.
Cool.
Awesome.
Maybe I'll show one more. Yeah, this is like my childhood fear.
Oh no.
I was really scared of dim light. So for Halloween, I wanted to draw some of the things that I was really scared of. So I drew this. I saw like figures in these lights. So I just wanted to paint that. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Awesome.
I'll pass it to Christine.
All right. Sorry, give me a second.
No, you guys are hot potatoing.
Not as technically proficient as these. Frantically looking for the button.
It's on the bottom.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So yeah, I pulled just some of my personal work as well.
Thank you.
So these are from my Instagram, so forgive kind of the
No.
Instagram formatting, the cropping.
We all get it. We all
You know what
understand.
I mean? But yeah, so mostly I do environment design, environment and prop design during work hours. So when I come home, I like to, when I do my personal work, I like to do something that's totally different, so that it doesn't feel like more work. So one of the areas that I'm very passionate about and that I love is animal anatomy, studying animal form and gesture. So some of my favorite artists, Joe Weatherly, of course, Claire Wendling, some real inspiration there. But yeah, so my idea of a relaxing Saturday evening is kind of watching David Attenborough documentaries and sketching along to them, as I find that to be a good resource.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you have cats?
I don't. You know what? Sadly, I am actually allergic to cats and
Oh.
dogs.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
Very
Oh.
ironic. Yeah. It's really
Yeah.
ironic. And horses. I'm actually very allergic to horses.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a bit ironic.
So you
I'd
can't
love
live
to
in
have
Burbank.
Yeah, yes.
Ah!
Yeah. Sometimes actually in the
Nobody
springtime when I
understands.
drive through Burbank with the windows down,
Mhm.
and like the hay kind of gets in,
Really?
my eyes will start watering. Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
it's
Really?
it's pretty unfortunate, but
Oh,
but
okay.
I do okay at like the zoo and stuff. So sometimes I will go there to do some live sketching and stuff like that. But yeah, that's
So
me.
it's specifically cats and horses?
And
I
dog?
think most animals with fur, I'm allergic to the dander.
Oh yeah, of
So
course.
I'm I'm more allergic to animals with like finer fur, so like chinchillas and rabbits. Like I really can't even get close to them. But some types of dogs, so it kind of depends, and it also depends on if they're like an indoor cat or an outdoor cat, or
Interesting.
kind of like what they've been around. So like I have some friends who have cats, and I can go over to their houses and only kind of get a mild stuffy nose. Whereas like some people, like 2 seconds in their house, and I'm like achoo, achoo, and kind of boogering everything up.
Mhm.
Too much information.
Amazing.
Sorry.
I mean, not amazing, but
Yeah.
your story was funny.
I'm looking into getting a reptile though. So if anybody out there has a reptile,
I have 2 leopard geckos.
oh yeah, your leopard
They're
gecko. Okay,
really cute.
let's offline about that. I want to
Yes.
hear all about your leopard geckos. I'm also interested in tortoises, because turtles are
They're
actually my
cute.
favorite animal. So
Oh, that's nice.
tidbit about me.
Christine, really quickly, what about those hairless cats?
Okay, so I love hairless cats, but that's where my husband draws the line.
Oh, but they're so cuddly because they don't have
That's
fur.
exactly. And like you can knit little sweaters for
Yeah.
them and stuff. I follow all these Instagram accounts of people who have hairless cats, and it's pretty adorable. There's also one Instagram account that I just found recently, real quick. It's called Mr. Bigglesworth, and it's a rabbit that was born hairless. It's like an albino rabbit, and he's like all pink. I've never seen a rabbit with just zero fur on him before. But now I'm totally obsessed, and I'm like, I want to go out and find one of those rabbits and love him.
That's weird. That's weird. You
It's a
guys
bit.
thought you were coming to a Bizdev panel. We're really just going to talk about hairless animals for the next 2 hours.
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. That's
Yes.
fine, right?
I mean, if you guys are cool with that, I could just go on. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen.
Awesome. Well, thank
There we
you.
go.
Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing your work. That was inspiring, and I feel bad that you can't have a cat. I want you to have a cat so bad. So I think we can kind of go down the line of just like we can get into the conversation a little bit, and I can start with Amber. Of just what do you think? What inspired you to draw as a kid? And this can be for any of the panelists and that kind of stuff.
Okay. For me specifically, drawing's always been something that I did. I've said this in my other talks, but I've always My personality is very like mild chaos. So
It's
when
okay.
I was in kindergarten, I
Uh-huh.
remember trading drawings for candy. I literally would be like, okay, everyone bring me your snacks, bring me your candy. I'll draw you stuff in exchange for that. So it's always been something that I've like utilized to my advantage. But it was just like a hobby. Once I got to middle school though, and I actually was like doing this consistently, my parents actually told me like, if you actually want to draw and like do something like this, they're both engineers, of course,
Whoa.
but they were like, if you actually want to do this as a potential living,
Hmm.
then you need to learn the foundation. So they enrolled me in like actual traditional like classic training, I guess, like still life, figure drawing,
Yeah.
sitting in a room in Shanghai with a bunch of kids on horses with no air conditioning, just drawing.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, so that's kind of, I think it's always been something that I've liked.
Hmm.
And I think because I lived in Shanghai, we have the Great Firewall of China, which meant that we had less entertainment that came in. And the big entertainment that they did allow in was usually from Disney, usually from DreamWorks. And so I got really attached to watching animated films because it reminded me of the US. And I would rewatch and rewatch and rewatch. And also, like, I would watch anime because we just had a plethora of that. And
Hmm.
I think just going off of that, um, and figuring out that you can actually work in animation as an actual job, that's always just like the moment I heard it, I was always just like, that's what I want to do. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of where it went. I went to school for animation actually, so I know like 2D animation and 3D animation.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until after I graduated that I realized that I actually just wanted to illustrate and design rather than animating. I
Hmm.
don't I don't know if you guys want to share your process or your journeys to there too.
Naveen, what do you think? Like, you seem very inspired by, your environment and growing up in India and everything like that. Like, is that what inspired you to keep the drawing up, like, when you were a kid?
No, when I was a kid, this is like a weird story. I first um, what I remember is I started drawing ducks when I was a kid. I thought, oh, my duck looks so nice, and I started drawing ducks
Animal
all the
drawing.
time.
Hey, that's where it's at.
Yeah, I would draw ducks everywhere, and I would make ducks out of clay. I made like tens of ducks, and my brother was just weirded out by this, by obsession with drawing ducks and making clay ducks. And then I stopped drawing because the school became so intense.
Mm,
And I would draw on the side, I would sketch a little bit. But then when it was time to go to college, we didn't have um, art college. That was like, it didn't feel like that is a way to make money.
mm,
So though it was at the back of my mind, like I was interested in drawing and doing something with art, I just went with what would make a living for me. So I did engineering for my bachelor's, but towards the end of engineering, uh, I was pretty sure that I did not want to do this for a living. So I tried to come to US to study art, but I didn't know what to study. I applied for colleges. I thought multimedia was like a thing,
mm,
and maybe that will teach me how to do art. But I did not like the courses. So I took 3 years break in India, and I tried to find animation work there. And I worked in a couple of studios, but I was not satisfied. So again, I did some research, and I came to Academy of Art in San Francisco.
Hmm.
And I studied masters there for like a year and a half. So
mm,
that was like starting from scratch. So I kind of got okay at drawing and painting, and then I took a few workshops outside of academy, and that's how my portfolio got better. And my mom was really supportive
Oh, that's great.
with all these things. Yeah,
oh,
because in India people are parents are generally very apprehensive about sending their kids to do things that are a little risky, but my mom was very supportive. So I was able to come here, and I started working at Disney Interactive in 2010.
Mm.
And yeah, while working there, I took a lot of workshops and improved my portfolio. And my first animation job was at Sony Pictures. I worked there for
Wow.
4 years, and then at Paramount for a couple of years, and now I'm at DreamWorks.
Wow, that's great. Supportive Asian parents, man. I mean, we
Yeah,
always talk
they're
about
very
that.
rare. Yeah,
It's very rare.
yeah. So
Yeah.
no, we are very lucky. That way.
I was just gonna ask, like, so I just wanted to get into the topic of supportive Asian parents, but like, I want to hear Christine's like journey more. But yeah, same. I can relate to that. Naveen, that's awesome, man. Yeah, your mom, man. Shout out to Naveen's mom. For believing in
Yeah.
him.
What? Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
know, so my parents actually, I feel like they got more supportive as I got older. So when I was really young, I remember, you know, in first grade and second grade, my mom, so I'm first generation here. My parents moved to the US from Taiwan when they were in their 20s or something like that. And they came over and ran a mom and pop's Chinese takeout restaurant. like and yeah, so when I was younger, I think that my parents really wanted me to go into a more traditional field that, you know, they themselves were familiar with as far as like being successful, you know, because they didn't want me to work at the restaurant when I grew up, you know, because it's very hard graft. You know, it's you know, you're basically there all the time. You know, you come home smelling like Chinese food, you go to work smelling like Chinese food.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't want that life for me, and so, you know, they really, you know, all they knew was like doctor, lawyer, engineer, because, you know, at the time in their generation, that was kind of what the benchmark of success was. So they wanted me to do math and do well academically, and so I remember in first and second grade they wanted me to do extra homework after school. You know, I mean, I think I think some of you might be familiar with this, right? You know, it's like they kind of get these extra workbooks from Taiwan, or, you know, from China. And my dad would be like, okay, we're gonna do algebra, and I was like, I was in second grade, I didn't know what I was doing, you know. Yeah, it is a mood. It is a mood. But I think that when I got a little bit older, you know, when I went to middle school and then high school, and I showed a real, like, I showed a tendency towards like the creative arts, you know, and my parents could tell that, you know, doing math and science wasn't really making me happy. I have to say that they were really supportive, especially when I went to college at UW. I started off as a bio major, which was insane.
Whoa.
Now that I think of it, I did not do well. Yeah, you don't need to look impressed, Bobby, because I did not do well. I struggled. I barely made it through my freshman year. Now, UW is a public school, so the classes are huge there. And like intro level freshman bio classes are like 500 people. Yeah, the bio labs, I still remember them. And so I struggled through freshman year. I did not get very good grades. I remember just like doodling on my exams, like in the margins, because, you know, you'd have like 2 hours to finish an exam and I wouldn't even understand the question. I'd be like, oh shit, you know. So I would just end up drawing little like, you know, little like doodles of spaceships and stuff in the margins. And then after that, after my freshman year, I got into the slightly harder you know, the higher level classes. And I remember being really nervous about telling my parents that, you know, because they were paying for college for me, which was like amazing and so generous of them. But I remember dreading the phone call. I actually switched majors without telling them because I was so scared to call them on the phone and tell them. So I went through 2 quarters of school as an art major. and I didn't tell them.
Oh my
And
God.
I think that I I anticipated their reaction to be way more extreme than it actually was. So when I actually ended
Oh,
up telling them,
okay.
it was not a big deal. And they were like, we kind of saw this coming. We could tell that your heart wasn't into it. And,
Oh.
ultimately, now that you've left our house and now that we've done everything we can to mold you into the human being you are today, ultimately, we just want you to be happy. That's the real goal in life, right? So
That is so sweet.
Oh.
yeah, my parents are the best. I mean, shout out to my mom and dad because I would not be here today
They're on the call, right?
without
They're here.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my
Amazing.
story. Yeah.
Incredible. That's awesome. Man. Yeah. Yeah, shout out to supportive Asian parents that support you in artistic endeavors.
They still don't know what I do. Like that's the thing, like when my aunties and uncles they ask my parents like what I do for a living, they always tell them like, oh, she's an animator, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like Christine, you go to the pre-COVID like Thanksgiving things, and they're like, "Oh, you work in animation, right? You're an animator." You're like, "Yep."
Yep,
What
that
I do.
one. Yep. And my dad, when he saw a trailer for the project that I'm currently working on, he was like, "It's amazing that you guys can draw so realistically." I mean, it's a 3D, and I've tried to explain 3D to him several times. But it's like just goes in one ear out the other. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's all on computers now, Dad. So it's fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I have like the opposite reaction with my dad because he's an engineer. He's a software engineer. He worked for Autodesk, so he knows Maya even better than I
Oh, your dad works for Autodesk?
Oh, that's
do.
crazy.
Yeah, kind of.
Crazy.
So
Is he
I
rich?
tell him
Can he
like,
get us some free
Yeah,
licenses?
can you get us?
Can
Can you hook
you,
everybody
can you
up
hook us
in
up?
this channel with free licenses for
no,
Autodesk? Sorry, go
he's
ahead.
no longer working there. But what used to happen was I'd be like, oh yeah, we're using Maya, we're doing this, and he'd be like, okay, so what is like the technical stuff? What is the rendering? What are you? And I'd be like,
Oh my gosh.
I just draw
You're like, Dad, I just
and
draw pictures.
model. That's about it. Going into all like the technical ththings, and I'm like,
It's like when you fire up. It's like when you fire up Photoshop and they have like a paragraph of names of people who made it,
Yes.
and you're like, I
Yes.
want to know their stories.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
they'd probably be like, we never made this program for art. We just wanted to manipulate photos. So how dare you guys kind of take it on?
I saw this awesome T-shirt once that had like the first 5 names listed. You know those
Oh,
T-shirts
that's
that are just
dope.
like words and names or whatever,
Yes.
and it's like
Yes.
it's kind of
Yeah.
a test to see if
Oh yeah.
I was like,
Let's,
aha, Photoshop
uh-huh.
people, makers of Photoshop. That is cool. I feel cool right now.
Let's get super nerdy on
Yes.
Photoshop. Just let's all. We should have worn our t-shirts. What was the first 5 Photoshop inventors?
There is this one Indian guy's name. It's
Yes.
like so long. And I
How do you pronounce that guy's name? How do you pronounce
think
that
it
guy's
is
name, Naveen?
Venkatraman Narayanan. So
oh,
he's from my part of India, so I can
Whoa, that's
recognize it.
cool, man.
Yeah.
No
That's
way.
awesome.
It's
That's so
truly a
cool.
small world up in here.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw any Filipino names there, but I'm sure we didn't have anything to do with Photoshop. So that's awesome, Naveen. If you dig it up, we can shout him out later on because he's probably on the call as well, right? Everyone's on the call. So I wanted to
Anybody
ask you
who's
guys.
anybody. Sorry.
I wanted to ask you guys, and we can go roundtable style of just what do you think in your portfolio helped you get your first animation job? Um, and what do you think, Amber?
I think because this is still relatively fresh to me, so I actually know exactly what it was
Oh,
that
cool.
kind of got people to respond to my portfolio.
Yep.
When I first graduated from SCAD, I had a very generic portfolio, honestly. I thought I was really good. I really wasn't, right? I had done a portfolio that I had seen all over the internet. Like I kind of copied like what everyone was doing. But the thing was that I don't think recruiters want to see copycats. I don't think that they want to see stuff that's been repeated over and over again.
Mm.
I think what actually stood out to recruiters when I remade my portfolio, when I actually moved to LA, was that I was trying to do something that I enjoyed. I was trying to do something that I was really inspired by. So for the Pebbles and Breadcrumb portfolio, it's not amazing by any technical standard. It's not amazing by any design standard, right? But what it is it drew from my childhood of visiting Mongolia. That was something that I had actually experienced, and being able to pull from that and actually pull from something that I enjoyed, had experienced, had actual personal connection to, I think that actually made all the difference between a very bland and generic portfolio and something that they could tell was well thought out, and they didn't care that everything was perfect. They cared that they could see the process, they could see my thinking,
Mm.
and I think that was actually what really stood out to most of them.
Yeah, yeah, that would stand out for me as well. If I looked at that portfolio, that personal experience, right? What you're talking about. Yeah, that's awesome. Naveen, what do you think?
No, I feel like one of the things that the studios look for is, can they make use of me, right? So when I graduated, I had a lot of artwork, but one of the things that really helped me was I took this workshop with Dice Tsutsumi, and that was a very rigorous workshop, like 12-week workshop, and I really learned how to paint in that workshop. So we had a lot of assignments to just paint still life and different lighting setups. And I tried to use that to create a few pieces. And I think that showed that the studio can really make use of my skill to, in their movies. Like I can paint different lighting setups and texture paint characters and just very production oriented stuff. I didn't have a lot of creative work in my portfolio, but stuff that was like technically pretty decent. So Sony was willing to give me a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Though I needed a visa, and it was not like the most obvious attractive choice. They were willing to give that chance because technically my work was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That visa stuff is another conversation altogether.
Yeah.
We should have you on a panel like on that discussion as well. But yeah, that totally makes sense. Christine, what do you think? In your portfolio, kind of helping you get into the industry?
So I would say I think everything that Aki and Naveen already said is spot on. So I'll just add in kind of like a third element. Something that was really important in kind of my journey was getting a lot of helping hands along the way. So for me, basically what that meant is I got my first job right out of college as an intern because I worked hard in class, and my TA, who worked at a game company at the time, was like, oh, we need an intern. We see that you're very diligent and hardworking. Why don't you come on board? And, once you're kind of in a company, then you have the opportunity to show your skill in a way that, maybe just a portfolio can't, right? Because it's not only about your work, it's about your work ethic, it's about your personality, it's about your attitude towards working. So yeah, I worked in games for a little bit in Seattle. And then when I moved down to LA, I came down here and didn't have a job. I didn't know anybody. And I was like, okay, I feel like I need to, do whatever I can to kind of meet some people who are in the industry so that I can learn from them. So I took some classes at a local vocational school. called Concept Design Academy.
Mhm.
So I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with it on the panel, but
CPA.
it's absolutely incredible. The instructors there are all, for the most part, working professionals or have worked in the industry before in the past. And it was there that, I took a bunch of classes, always did my homework,
Which
that's
ones?
important.
Which classes did you take?
I took several figure drawing classes from
Mhm.
Kevin Chen, who's the owner
Mhm.
of the school,
Mhm.
because I think that draftsmanship and foundational skills are really important. That's something that Naveen and Aki and I have also talked about before, right? So
Mhm.
I think before you can be a good designer, you have to understand things like form, gesture, anatomy, perspective, because without the basic skills, it's kind of like, to borrow a phrase from a good friend of mine, trying to do calculus and not even knowing basic algebra, right? You got to have a solid foundation in order to build
That
up.
analogy is lost on me.
Well,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
you know what I'm saying.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
It's like trying to bake a cake and
Do I know what you mean?
without flour or something. So you can't.
Right.
It's very hard to do. It's very hard to do.
Right.
So, anyways, I got my first job in the animation industry through Kevin, because he happened to know the producer, who was working on The Legend of Korra at the time at Nickelodeon. And they needed an entry level prop designer.
Well, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I was like, yeah, I'm game for anything.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I feel like,
Awesome, man.
as generally speaking, your first job may not always be, Bizdev artist. May not be the title that, or even the job description that you're aiming for. But I think that the most important part is to get into the studio, because after that, like I said, you can learn. You can look over at your coworkers. You can see if you want to be a character designer, but maybe they hire you on as a color stylist or something like that. You can learn from the character designer on the show. Just being in that studio environment is the most important thing. So definitely encourage you to be open-minded when it comes to positions that are open at big studios, because it's not always going to be, the first job is not always going to be the one that your dream job.
Right.
I can add on to that too. I actually think having a lot of work experience outside of just like VizDev or something actually really helps.
Mm.
Because I always say this, but what we do as artists is basically visual storytelling, right?
Mm.
And so you kind of have to have some life experience to draw from in order to tell stories.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times, you can't just go into that dream position thinking like, oh, I'm gonna do it and like be the best at it. It rarely happens like that. I don't know anyone who like got a great first job straight out of school, even if it sounded great on paper.
Mhm.
There's so many different paths, and all that does is create more experiences for you to draw from, enjoyment in your life, and
Yeah.
I just think it's important to be open about that.
Yeah, someone that I worked with that I sat next to on my first day of the job gave me this awesome piece of advice, and I've never forgotten it. She was like, because we were having lunch together, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, do you have any advice? Like, tell me all the things. 'Cause I was really nervous. And she was like, it's fine. Just take it one day at a time and be like a sponge. Just absorb. Like, you're gonna run into good bosses and bad bosses. You're gonna have good jobs and bad jobs. She'd been in the industry for a long time, by the way, seasoned veteran. And she was like, but if you just absorb everything along the way, eventually that's going to get you to where you want to go. So I try to remain sponge-like.
Mm.
Yes. Oh, Bobby, I think you're
Oh,
muted.
sorry. I was just, when you said sponge-like, I thought you were going to say SpongeBob, and then I didn't know where that was going to go. But
Don't make me sing the song because I can.
that's awesome. Thank you guys. And then so we can kind of move on to, I wanted to kind of shed a light on like what your day to day is, right? So when you actually, after you kind of break into the industry of just kind of being a biz dev artist in regular times, these are different times, but like what is your, typical workday like, before all of this kind of stuff? Let's say 2019. Um, and then maybe we can enlighten aspiring artists of just kind of like what your day to day is, um, going into the studio. So, Amber, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that I can definitely shed some light on Bizdev as a TV position because it's not exactly talked about that much, and it is a little bit of a brand new position that's been coming around.
Hmm.
I think in general, everyone kind of knows that Bizdev is kind of overarching. Bizdev for TV, though, is including character design, environment design, prop design.
Mm.
The thing that's, I think, a little bit special, at least at DreamWorks, is that you get to do the entire position. So basically, you can do roughs, sketch, orthos, color, texture swatches if you're in 3D, um, like texture callouts and stuff like that. Versus in some other shows that I worked on, one person just does design, one person just does color. It's always kind of up in the air per studio, but at DreamWorks, the show I'm on currently, I do everything, and it's actually really great because you don't end up like burning out just on one thing as well. You get to shift around a little bit because it's always nice to design, and then it's always nice to be able to paint like a 3D model every once in a while.
Hmm.
My normal day at DreamWorks though is pretty chill, actually. I was a little bit surprised about that because I worked in Atlanta for a little bit right after college. And the work environment in Atlanta was very like, come to work on time, do your job, no daddling, no YouTubes, like make sure you're working 24/7. We don't want like lots of chattering and stuff like that. So it made for a very strict work environment, which was fine. But moving to LA and getting the in studio job at DreamWorks, it's really nice because I think my team generally cares about like, oh, let's like actually have relaxed time. It's also really important to relax and talk with everyone on the team and get together. Um, so usually in the mornings, like say if it's a Monday, we'll have a weekly crew meeting, we'll have check-ins, we'll have talks with the art director, but it's not exactly like super formal. It's like just everyone sharing thoughts of what they did and like things they worked on and stuff like that. At DreamWorks, you have like a list of assignments. You can go through them. Sometimes you get stuff that's already halfway through the process. Like you get a sketch that just needs to be refined, or you need to do someone else's orthos. All that stuff is all good. DreamWorks in general is quite a collaborative space too, so you have a lot of teamwork, and I really enjoy that stuff. So when I was working on character designs for the show I'm on, we would pass it around between me and this other artist, and we would go back and forth bouncing on each other's ideas.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that was pretty unique and pretty. I really enjoy environments like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Um, thank you, Amber. Uh,
No problem.
Naveen, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Like your day to day, 2019 pre-COVID.
Yeah, specifically at DreamWorks, I joined in March, I think. It has been great. No, it's pretty chill, as Amber said. I love working on a team. They give a lot of time, and they just give you the assignment and don't bother you unless you need something. And the production team has been really helpful in helping me, achieve what I want to do. They sometimes, us being artists, we are like a little too concentrated on our work, and we might miss other things, and they're always there to kind of help you. So that has been great. As far as the type of work that I'm doing, you get to do a wide range of things, from
Yeah.
designing to like painting really detailed texture paintings to color keys.
Mhm.
So I joined my team quite early on. So what we do is, first we have this blue sky phase where we just explore. It's like a very kind of a broad exploration of just story moments and locations. So I did a few of those. And then as the story kind of gets a little more solid, so very specific locations and what is going to happen there. So you get these very specific notes and storyboards. So based on that, you create that location, and you know where the camera is going to be placed. So you only have to focus on that side of the location and think about the lighting and the texture, and you design it and paint it with the texture, and then you provide a production team with texture packets and all the specifics that is needed to build that location. And in the end, as the movie is wrapping up, you paint a lighting key. So you inform the lighters about the type of lighting and the colors. So lighting and color keys come at the end of the movie. So I've been doing all of that.
Oh, wow. So you kind of run the beginning to
Yeah, and they have been, they're not pigeonholing me. So they just keep me interested by giving me various different kinds of assignments. And
yeah,
I really appreciate that.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. Christine?
Yeah, so my day-to-day looks a little bit different, only because I'm in a more managerial position.
Yeah.
So, I actually don't get to do, outside of very, very initial kind of sketches and ideas, I don't actually do a lot of physical artwork anymore. Just, it depends. Not all art directors are like this. It's just that this is the kind of art director that this particular project needed. So I do hope, to get more kind of a hands-on position again in the future. But yeah, most of my day-to-day is spent reading scripts, watching animatics, launching artists, pulling reference for my artists. So we do kind of like these launch packets. If I have 10 artists on the team, each member will get a packet with all of the pertinent information for the episode that they're working on in it. So it could be excerpts from the scripts, along with my own notes, along with time codes from the Animatic. And for those of you who don't know, an animatic is basically, it's just like a very, very rough cut of all the storyboards with some audio, the dialogue from the show. So you're kind of watching a, like somebody help jump in here. It's like you're watching like a you're watching a version of the final picture without any of the final artwork in it. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Storyboards, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly, storyboards, and it's kind of cut together and has been edited.
Bare bones.
It's the bare bones. Yeah, it's the bare bones. And sometimes it's very bare, depending on the project that you're on. Anyways, so yeah, and then of course, another big part of my position is being the bridge between the design department and all the other departments that it takes in order to, create the final thing that you see on Netflix or on screen. So I will have meetings with the head of animation. I will have meetings with the head of lighting and compositing. I will have meetings with the head of digital animation, with the modelers, with the texture artists, with the lighters. And that takes up a surprising amount of time, because it's a lot of working issues out on the spot. It's a lot of kind of, like, I guess, collaborative, creative problem solving. But I really like doing that stuff, though. That's the thing, because I like working with people. So I feel like it's so fun and interesting to meet people who are going to give you a different perspective. So for example, as a character designer who's only ever studied character design, maybe you don't fully understand the ramifications of a design once it hits animation. So working with somebody from the animation department, they're going to be able to tell you why, you can't have shoulder pads out to here or something like that, right? And it's fun to know the why, because I feel like as an artist, when you get notes, like I always like to know like where the note is coming from. Like, is it a functionality note? Is it a story note?
Yeah.
So I think just kind of it's my first time being an art director, and I feel
Oh,
like
wow.
I've learned so much, and it's been a
Yeah.
very eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have Zoom fatigue?
I do have a little bit of Zoom fatigue.
So I'm glad we brought you on for another.
No, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Sometimes I'll just be like, look, guys, I'm just gonna turn my camera off because my face is tired. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
the face is tired today. But like Naveen and Aki were saying, DreamWorks is a really understanding environment, and I do feel like they are very, very they're very considerate of the employees. So our production tries not to schedule too many meetings on Fridays, just to give people a little bit of like time to themselves, to work, to think. I mean, it's not like we don't have to work, but it's just like giving a people from all the Zoom meetings, or actually we use this crazy software named Webex, which I detest, but that's neither here nor there. I prefer Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever, but
Right.
Webex is from like 30 years ago.
Webex, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, you don't need to.
I like that really quickly. I like, Christine, that you gave yourself away as a gamer because you have that like gaming headset.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
With the like thing that.
Yes.
That's
I play World of Warcraft as a way to
You
stay in
still play
touch.
that?
I do, yeah.
Oh, man.
Sometimes you still play
Game like 30 years old?
Tons of people still play World of Warcraft, right? It's still popular.
No, 5 people play it, and you're one of 5.
Well, I am old, so I mean, I was in college when beta came out, so that's an indicator. But anyways, I mostly play it socially though, because my best friend, she doesn't live in LA, she lives up in the Bay Area, and so we kind of have like a once a week like game-a-thon to. I mean, we're terrible actually at the game. We just like run around like I mean, like we barely know what's going on, but we'll like gossip and chit chat. Gives us something to do as we kind of catch up, type of thing. So we don't get those like awkward phone silences.
Yeah.
But
amazing.
She works in games, so
I'm totally teasing you. That's totally fine. I work on games and that kind of stuff too.
But, games are cool, right, guys?
No, of course. Amber, what were you gonna say? You were gonna say something?
No, I think it was
cool.
a comment, but
You just coughed, and I thought you were gonna contribute to the World of Warcraft conversation. Oh, there's a cat. Don't look behind you. There's a cat behind you. So I think the last structured question would be, as we start to wind down, and we can start with you, Amber, of like, what advice would you have for aspiring Bizdev artists trying to break into the industry now? Because I know like every 5 years, I mean, that advice seems to change.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things that I think students always tend to ask me or get a little bit caught up on. And one of the things that I like to enforce is that for me, and I think for a lot of artists, when you're applying to jobs, you will get rejected. You will get rejected so many times. I got rejected by DreamWorks twice, okay? And this was within the year of me coming to LA. They probably rejected me a bunch of times when I applied out of state, but rejection doesn't always mean a personal attack on you or your art. There are a lot of reasons why recruiters go after one person or the art director chooses someone. A lot of the times it is out of your hand. So then what is good to focus on is what you can do to improve yourself, what you can do to improve your chances. What I've always done is made sure that if I had contact with the recruiter, to thank them for their time, keep up with them. If you update your portfolio, make sure to send it out to them. The way that I got my job at DreamWorks was actually, I didn't apply for it. The recruiter that remembered me reached out to me and said that the art director for my show really wanted to interview me. I was the first person hired on my show before they even went into greenlight production. So they hired me very early on to do character design and all of that. And all of that stuff matters. It is a long-term goal that hopefully you guys don't feel too dejected over. You know, you just have to keep putting yourself out there. Try to detach yourself a little bit emotionally from your artwork. I think that is a little bit of a saving grace when you're going through bouts of rejection or trying to get somewhere, because it's not easy. Okay, it's not easy having art as a job, but it is so enjoyable and it is so, I think, well worth it when you do achieve that. And it's like Christine was saying before, where it's like each job, even if it's not the title that you wanted or the position you wanted, each of that is a stepping stone into what you want. I think for that, that's the most important thing to me, is like when you go at it, is just to have an open attitude, keep doing it. I know like it seems like a lot sometimes, but I think especially with COVID, it's going to take a little longer to get stuff out there now. It's going to take a little longer to hear recruiters come back, but I want to tell everyone not to lose hope and to keep going for it. I think that's the best course of action for that, in terms of applying for jobs and making sure you don't get like rejection fatigue or something like that.
That's awesome, Amber. I definitely had rejection fatigue in the past. I probably might still go through it, but it's always gonna happen. But thank you, Amber. That was beautiful. Man, that's a rough one, huh? Rejection stuff, and man, that can be a whole panel. Can you imagine a Rise Up panel that's like dealing with rejection and how to bounce back? That's the whole thing.
No, that's
And
really
we all talk about our rejection bits.
yeah.
Actually, I would love to tune into that. Actually,
One of
that'd be
the most popular panels I did for Lightbox was actually just purely on mental health
fun.
and how to balance that as an artist, and that was like really sought after, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had to meditate before this panel. So, Naveen, what do you think? Just
First of all,
advice. Sorry, go ahead.
that's a great advice, Aki. You know, I was rejected all the time, you know, tens of times, and I nearly gave up, you know, getting a job. I thought if I could just stay in the country, I think that would be like a great luck. But then I slowly started, you know, working on my portfolio. It was like a very gradual step-by-step process. I started tackling one issue after another in my portfolio. So one advice I would give is not be afraid to show your work to as many people as possible and get all their thoughts. Sometimes it'll be conflicting advice. So just take the advice and see how you can apply and make your work better. And yeah, just going out there, meeting other people and showing your work. And also getting inspired from various sources, not just from Instagram or other fellow artists, because when you get inspired from other people, your work sometimes kind of starts looking like others, and you're not gonna make your work stand out from others. So it's gonna become all the more difficult to get a job. So see how you can get inspired, not just from other Vista artists and people who are popular now on Instagram, but from like master artists from the past, or from movies that you watch, or you know, things that you see in real life, and just try to stand out a little bit and see how you can create some pieces in your portfolio that is memorable, and not just like, because the recruiters, they have just a few minutes to look at your work. So you have to create a few pieces that stands out for them, so they can remember your work and remember you. They can connect your work to you as a person. So the next time you meet them and introduce yourself, they'll remember you.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, that's great, Naveen. Yeah, Christine, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, all the good advice has already been given. Why couldn't I have gone first?
You can.
No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, so I guess, kind of just to add on to this theme, I would say it's very important to be patient with yourself because art is a journey. And I think that we're all so saturated, with, artists online, on Instagram, on ArtStation. You're seeing people who have been working on their craft for decades, sometimes. Like, you don't see all the work behind these kind of glittering rock star portfolios. And I know for me personally, sometimes I can get dejected or feel a crisis of low self-esteem, I think, when I'm comparing my own work to people who might be a little bit further ahead in their journeys as artists. So I would just say it takes a lot of time. I mean, it takes, the only way to get where to the level that you want is to work at it and to practice, and there's no shortcuts. Everybody has to do that, and I think that when I feel insecure, thinking about art as not just a destination, but as this timeline, and I'm kind of somewhere on the timeline, um, makes me feel like, even though my art, my technical skills or whatever aren't where I want them to be, I'm on my way to getting there, and so I think that's very comforting for me. And the other thing is, of course, like, um, it is good to look at other people's artwork and stuff, but at the end of the day, kind of remind yourself why you're doing this in the first place, which is hopefully that you enjoy it, and not to put too much pressure on yourself. I mean, it is good to strive, I think, for an ultimate goal, but it is a little bit more pleasant. You can make the journey a little bit more pleasant if you are doing it for fun and for enjoyment. And I think that is something that separates our field from a lot of other kind of professions out there. Part of the equation of success for us is how much joy we get out of it. Like, I feel like I can always tell when I look at a portfolio, whether the artist kind of had fun and enjoyed doing it, or if it was something that was just like a task, a chore, you know what I mean. So try to find a little bit of joy in the work you do.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's, I mean, like, I feel like, like, if it was like, if we had 9 hours, I would want to go into like, how do you guys deal with rejection? Because I have my own weird way, and I definitely, but all that said, like, every one of us has dealt with rejection a time, and so if we can sort of offer up any advice of it's just like, I mean, freaking all these artists on this panel are amazing, but they to think that they got rejected for a job, you're like, what the? How can that even happen? But like, and I don't know. Like, I've been through it too, and
Yeah.
I have my coping mechanisms. Pizza, maybe, but
And ice cream.
ice cream. Um, but really quickly, I didn't want to talk too much, but like, if we can get to the Rise Up Animation Discord questions, let me know if you guys have a heart out. That's totally fine. We're at
I have a quick question. So I have this Q&A questions on my.
Oh, yeah.
Is it specific to me or it's for all of us?
No, it's for all of us.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question, Naveen, and I'll try to get those. I'll try to. Maybe I should speed round it. Do you guys want to do a speed round?
Speed round.
How about we do that to just try to get through everyone's questions? I don't know what that means, speed round. But the first question is from Meg from the Discord, Rise Up Animation Discord. She says, Bizdev has such a wide variety of responsibilities, from characters to environments to props. how do you go about making a strong Bizdev portfolio? Is it better to be a master of one field or a jack of all trades? Amber, we'll start with you because we always start with Amber.
Um, I think this one's a tricky one, right? Because the thing with BizDev, even though it deals with all three major design elements like character, environment, and props, you'll actually see that a lot of people like kind of gear towards one or the other. I personally gear towards a lot of character design. I can do environments, I can do props, but most of the time when people hire me for BizDev, it's actually for character design. And it is slightly different per property. For TV, it's I can do all three. For say Supercell, I'm purely blue sky character design. So it is good to know. I think everyone ideally would want to know all three, but if you seem to be going towards one thing or another, it is good to go towards the thing that you seem to be skilled at, right? You can always bring up the skills of the other things as well. The thing though, I don't want people to think though, is that you can just be a generalist by knowing how to do all three. The hard thing with BizDev is you still have to have a certain level of skill for all three, right? And that can be hard to achieve sometimes. So it is good to focus on what you think is the most useful skill for you right now while you're applying to jobs and stuff like that. And you can always bring up the other stuff as well. At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. That's great. Amber, that's great. Naveen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's either or. Like you should either be really, really good at one thing or be kind of good at other things, like all the fields. So the studio knows that, okay, even if this person is not an expert at one, we can use them as a generalist. So even if you are really good at, say, painting, it's always good to kind of learn other things as well. Because you might be hired as a painter, but they may not find a use for you later. And the studio, if they're gonna are forced to lay off people, they might go for the person who is not being used at that time. So to have that job security it's always good to have a little bit of knowledge in everything, even if you are really good at one thing.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Christine, what do you think?
It's a tough question, but I think Aki and Naveen pretty much nailed it. I think it also depends on where you're at, kind of personally. Like if you're still working on foundational skills, it might be good to focus on design or something like that, a little bit more narrow of a field, just because I feel like it can be super overwhelming, trying to be, I'm not a good painter. I'm trying to work on it. Naveen and Aki, I'm going to force you guys to give me some pro tips after this. Yeah, so that being said, it's like it is really hard to be a good designer and a good painter. There's a reason why oftentimes those fields are separated in a production, because hey man, it like just just being good at drawing takes years and years and years of work. So it, and like I said, there's no shortcut. So it's like, as you can imagine, if you want to be good at everything, you're gonna be like 75 before the time you're even getting close. No, that's not true. Some people are just extremely gifted, and they just eat, sleep, breathe, work, and I'm very envious of those people, but sadly I'm not one of them. But yeah, so I would say it kind of depends on where your comfort level lies as well. There's a lot of positions, I think, beyond Bizdev in TV production. I've never worked in features, so I actually can't really speak to that, but in TV production, there's design, which is usually split up into background, character, prop. You know, if you feel confident in your character design abilities or your background and probabilities, you know, work on those for your portfolio. You don't have to have color. You know, I've hired plenty of designers that, you know, have no color in their portfolio, but they have beautiful layouts. I can see through their work that they understand perspective. You know, I can see that they understand design. And I've also looked at color portfolios, you know, where people have beautiful paintings, but maybe I wouldn't want, you know, maybe I wouldn't hire them for a specific show to be a designer because they're not showing super strong skills in that field. So it's okay to be either, I guess, is my answer. It's okay to be a jack of all trades if that's what you feel like you're comfortable with. And it's also you can get hired just as easily by being the master of one.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. User Pippi from Discord says, this is a pretty good question. What is the general timeline like for working in feature production in Bizdev? And then how long can the visual development part take before they kind of move forward? So I think that's a question for Naveen. Like how long do you usually work on a feature film, like in Bizdev?
2 to 3 years.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That's
2
a
years.
long time.
Yeah, on
Oh
you know,
my
because
God.
most of the movies they go into rewrite. All the movies that I worked on, they went into rewrite. But now I think,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, it is becoming shorter. Like when I started in 2013 or 14, there were a lot more movies that were going into rewrite, and they would take forever to make. And now I think the budgets are slightly smaller, so they want to finish the movie within 2 years. So you know, usually it takes like 2 years from the you know, blue sky phase to the very end when we do like color adjustments and we have to do paint overs or the lighting to inform the lighters where you know they could refine it. So it won't be as big a team towards the end. The team usually is like really small in the beginning, like a few artists, 3 to 4, and then it becomes really large in the middle when it goes into production. And towards the end, there'll be a few people who'll just be there to do like the final refinements.
Wow, that's a huge commitment. I was gonna ask obvious question, but like, are you on that project exclusively? Just that one project? Like
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Cool. Crazy. 2 to 3 years. That sounds like a long time. She also asks, we can open it up to the panel. What's something you've never expected to be doing as a visual development artist? Christine has a bit. You laughed at yourself.
Yeah, no, let's see. Let me think. I mean, okay, like I do have an answer. It's just hard to think of because there's so many like small, minute kind of details.
Oh, DreamWorks is not here. They're not invited. So
Okay.
you can say anything you want. We cut them out. Actually,
one thing that surprised
they're not allowed in.
one thing that this surprised me, and I think some people were talking about it earlier on the chat, is like orthos, and Aki briefly touched on it. But I don't think I realized. So this is specifically for 3D. We don't really do orthos on 2D productions, but it's basically like, imagine doing blueprints for a building or a vehicle. It's extremely detailed. The point of an ortho is basically to convey a what a 2D drawing is going to look like in 3D space to the modeler. And now, you know, you might be wondering like, well, why does it have to be, you know, so detailed? Well, oftentimes the modeler is overseas or the modeler is at another studio, and you as the Bizdev artist or the art director, you're not always going to have a chance to like explain the design to them, you know, and your intention. So all of your intention has to be kind of put down on paper. And I mean, imagine a room like, you know, like let's say your assignment is to design an office. There's so many things in an office, right? You know, beyond just the shell of the architecture, there's all the props that are going to live inside of it, like this bookcase behind me and those, you know, shelves and this poster, and all of that needs to be built in 3D if, you know, you want to see it on screen. So I think that's one of the things that people are less excited to do because obviously it's a very tedious task. But I would say that if you're good at drawing and you're good at representing 3D space in a 2D drawing, that's like definitely a niche thing that art directors are always hiring for. You know, we always want to find people who are willing to do it, who are enthusiastic about doing it. So yeah, that's one of the things that I didn't really know was going to be such a big part of my job when I first started as an environment designer.
Got it. Yeah.
I have
Andrew,
like
what do
a
you
bit
think?
of an offshoot one where it's not actually. I think the thing that surprised me the most was communicating your design to people who aren't artists. Sometimes when you're
Mhm.
in meetings, you have
Oh, that's right. That's, yeah.
runners, and for some reason, I always thought that they would have like an animation background, like these are just higher ups in the company, or understand how the general process works. No shade on anyone on my show, but this is just a general like observation I've made. Uh, you have to be a little bit flexible sometimes when you're turning in things. I've had notes come back where it says like, oh, where I've turned in an orthographic, and if it is say like a texture on a 3D model, you do the line art in blue sometimes, right? And so on our show we have 2D animated faces, and so they have blue lines for the eyeballs. And one of the notes that came by was something basically that said, oh, those eyes are very creepy. Those, can you change the color? Can you make it in color? And we were just like, no, this is the orthographic. It's not like the final outcome. And you just have instances of that where it's like you have to explain something to someone where they don't understand 3D. It is very funny sometimes, very frustrating sometimes, but it's something that I didn't really think about when I went into the position. But now that we've gotten into it for so long, it's like, oh, okay, you know, it's fine to do a couple of rough notes and stuff for them so that they get the idea. I think that's actually kind of important, is to be able to convey the idea not only in a technical standpoint but in a way where everyone can understand it, whether that means adding rough colors, rough base colors, designs, kind of renderings on it so that everyone can understand it.
Yeah. Naveen, what do you think?
Now, one of the things that surprised me was how specific everything got. Like, we have to get into the detail for everything. I had to design and paint a nose hair for like a close-up of a nose hair. For
Is that in your portfolio, Naveen? Can you
no,
put that like your first image?
I'm not very proud of that. So
That's awesome, man. That's really fun.
and you know, I've designed like bathrooms and like so, but you have to get into the specific, right? Is it like a overly used bathroom? Is it like maintained well? So based on the story, you have to get into the detail of it and then explain it. So you have to say, give reference and also explain in words how shiny it is, like the textural quality of it, the shade, how the shader would work. So you are informing. First, you're showing it in your painting, and you're also trying to put it in words how it should work. So you give maximum information to the production team so that
Yeah.
your art is realized properly.
Got it. Yeah, that's great. Want to hear more about that nose hair a bit. But and I'll look out for it when we watch the movie. Everyone will.
This is from Smurfs, so.
Oh, it's from Smurfs?
Yeah, Gargamel uses his nose hair to create a magic, so there's a close-up of his nose hair.
I love that. Jealous I didn't think about it first. So one of the last questions, guys, and thank you for sticking around, by the way, Amber, Christine, and Naveen. But user RV asks, are there any differences in the kind of work studios would like to see in Bizdev portfolios for TV versus feature? What do you think, Amber?
I'm going to generalize a little bit since Naveen will probably know better than I do.
Yeah.
For what I've heard and from friends who work in feature, especially, it is a little bit more, you have more time to go into paintings. You have a little bit more time to go into blue sky phases. You have a little bit more, each image is a little bit more important in feature, I want to say, where the time taken into it, the feel, the essence, all of that stuff, versus in TV, you are on a tighter deadline most of the time, right? You have to do quick turnarounds. You need to be able to get things out quick. I know that for TV, there's a little bit more of a technical aspect of it. I don't mean like painting quality. I mean like you do have to do orthographics versus a lot of times in feature, there are modelers already in studio. They have artists and 3D modelers who work together really well, so they don't have to spend as long of a time doing exact orthographics, I think. In TV, you have a little bit more of that technical. You have to do things a little bit more step by step in TV, I want to say, because a lot of the time it goes to overseas studios. If you're working on a 2D show, you have to do special poses. You have to basically blueprint out everything for all the studios so that they know exactly what to do. There are still pros and cons to everything, you know. I've also worked in development in TV, and that there's a longer blue sky process for that, but it is also still tighter deadline. You need to get things out really quickly. It's always really useful if you are quick to clean up drawings, quick to rough out stuff, and if your sketches are generally pretty readable to begin with, it's always pretty helpful, I think.
Yeah, got it. Christine, we can go to you in terms of, TV versus feature. If you have any thoughts on that, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is, yeah, it's a bit harder for me to answer that. I've only worked very briefly in pre-production for one feature, but I was freelancing and I wasn't really involved in the pipeline at all.
I see.
But I think, Aki covered it pretty well. In general, I do think that you're given more time per assignment, and there's definitely more time in the pre-production phase. Like a lot of you guys were wondering about like what blue sky is, and blue sky is basically the time that is given to you in a production that you get to explore as an artist. So it's when there's no look or style that's been decided upon yet. And so they want a lot of different voices, right? So they'll hire a bunch of different artists with a bunch of different visions and kind of cherry pick the best ideas, from out of this batch. And in TV, that time is very short, sometimes non-existent, because TV series can be a lot more crunchy because, if you think about it, let's say you have $100 to make a movie. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not obviously not real. So, but you have $100 to make a movie and it's 120 minutes and it's going to take 2 to 3 years to make. Now, in that same 2 to 3 years, if you're working on a TV show, and you also have $100, or maybe sometimes less than $100, you got to make like 60 episodes or something like that. Each runtime being 22 minutes long. So if you think about it and you do the math, it's less money per second of animation, and so generally speaking, you just have a little bit less resource-wise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Naveen, I think if anyone can touch on this, but like even in terms of like portfolios too, of just kind of like whether maybe you can touch on this, Naveen, of just kind of like feature animation portfolios versus TV portfolios when it comes to like visual development. Is there like a clear dividing line, or is it just kind
No, I
of
think if it is a show like Korra or How to Train Your Dragon's TV show, it looks very similar to a feature, right? So I think there's a lot of overlap. But if it is a show like a flat show like say Family Guy or Simpsons, that's going to be entirely different. But what is common between them is there are certain like foundational things like graphically it should read clearly whatever they are doing. So those things you have to keep in mind. But if your style is like very flat, then it's like mostly TV because feature is a lot more detailed and involved. So if you are aiming for a feature, you can get into feature or like a really detailed shows like Korra. So it depends on what your style is. If your style is something kind of more three-dimensional and realistic, just it's going to work for both. And try to have at least a couple of pieces that are a little more detailed. So it looks like you spent some time on it and you're flushed out and you have thought of all the problems that will happen in the art piece. Yeah, if you only have like, because in movies, you need to figure out everything in the artwork. So that is one thing that will be helpful. So at least have a few pieces where you have really figured out the lighting properly and how the bounce light and everything works, and maybe some texture too. So that'll really help with the feature portfolio.
Yeah, that's great. It's very informative. I think we're at 12:30, so if you guys have a hard out, feel free to bounce and but I have and that's no problem. I think I'll just kind of keep going until I pass out, but or until because I didn't eat breakfast yet. But like I have one more I have one more question on the Discord. And this is a pretty sorry, Amber,
Oh.
were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, for me, I think I can do a couple more questions, no problem. I'll
Okay.
probably have a hard out at 1 p.m. if that's okay.
Oh yeah, of course.
Other than that, I'm still
Same.
pretty okay.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same.
Same. Okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. And we can probably end like in 10, 15 minutes. But there's a question here. I think that was pretty good of like, how important are looser explorations in your portfolios versus the highly rendered paintings that you see in other portfolios? Like, do you guys place importance on that, or kind of like a preference on that? Yeah. What do you think, Amber?
Actually, could you repeat the question? I was answering a Q&A.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I paraphrased it very poorly, but the question is, in your opinion, how important are looser explorations in portfolios and in your own work versus the highly rendered paintings you often see from Bizdev artists?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually, because I fell into this trap when I first graduated from college. I thought that every piece in my portfolio had to be perfect. I could only put the best pieces inside. and there are some people out there who just have amazing painting abilities and they can just do that. But the thing is, if you're competing with someone purely on paintings, there's probably going to be someone out there who's better than you, right? Especially if you're a student, especially if you're just out of college and stuff. So I actually think it's really important to have looser sketches, to have rougher sketches, especially if you want to work in visual development, whether it be in feature or TV, because you're going to be showing your artwork at all stages, and it is good to show your thought process. That's kind of what people want to see anyways. It is kind of the most important, I think, is to show the thought process and to show the initial sketches, the roughs, the rough colorings, and then show the final painting to show that you can do all of that. Because there are people who noodle on like their best paintings, but it took them like say like an exorbitant amount of time, and they didn't do like a lot of sketches. They just went at it and basically drilled it in until there was nothing left. And I think that it works for some people, but a lot of the times people want to see the process. They want to see what you're thinking about. It is good to show gesture drawings. It is good to show your rough sketches, as long as they are at a certain level too. I wouldn't do anything that's hard to read. I would do stuff that helps convey your point.
That's great. That's awesome. Christine or Naveen, what do you guys think? I'll go with Christine.
Okay, I could tell we were both about to talk at the same time.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I looked at you and you were like,
So yeah, I agree 100% with Aki. I like to see rough sketches and portfolios because I like to see the process of the artist, right? I like to see what their brain looks like when they're thinking through a design. Sometimes sketches, you might do 10 for a character, but you're art director and you only pick one to go to final, right? So it's like I like to see how much kind of thinking goes on before that final product. So I say yes, but agreed. I think if it's too rough and it's not really conveying like a story, that's something we haven't really touched on in this panel yet, but I think Bizdev artists are also your art is also should be very closely informed by and connected to the story of the production that you're working on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, Naveen, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So it is important to have a lot of rough sketches, but the important thing is those rough sketches have to be clear. Like it can be like a thumbnail, but it should be like a good thumbnail. I should be able to see what's happening in that small thumbnail. And you don't need to have like a very detailed painting, but I want to know how would you handle it if it is a detailed painting? Like things like, have you thought about the texture and how like shading qualities and stylization, things like that. So you don't have to put together everything in a portfolio, but it'll be nice to see how you design a tree in your world and how the leaves work in your world and things like that. Like some of the technical but still interesting facts that you have thought through. Because your show could be set in like 18th century France, and how have you thought about stylizing that location? So I want all those cool details. It needn't be in the detailed painting, but at least in like small paintings just for those details. It'll be nice to see those, just to see that you think through those things.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's awesome. I think my apologies to everyone that put questions in the Q&A. I don't know if we can get to them today to let everyone go. People have a hard out at like 15 till, but trying to think of a way. Anyway, trying to think of a way that we can have those questions like be answered in some way in the Discord or something like that. Or I'll answer them and just give you guys wrong information. for 4 hours. But I would, I want to say thank you, Christine, Amber, Naveen, for taking the time. This has been, I have a fly here. Thank you for taking the time for this panel. You guys are amazing, amazing artists, and very insightful and very open about your process. And I'm really, you can unmute yourself because we're a group now. I'm just kidding. But really, 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 I appreciate you guys' time, your knowledge, your investing in all of the aspiring artists that jumped onto the call and sharing your knowledge and information and advice and everything like that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if we got 3 minutes. Anything last you want to say?
I just want to say that, thanks for having me, first of all. And RaiseUp is like a great resource. I wish I had it when I graduated from school. It has been guiding a lot of people. And thank you so much for doing this. And I'm glad I'm able to do a small part in this organization.
Yeah, man. Well, awesome. Thank you for
I
being
want
part
to
of
say
it.
thank you for having us, Bobby. It's been really fun. I got to know Naveen and Christine a little bit better too. I hope that all of the information that we talked about was helpful. I do want to agree with Naveen where when I went to school, there was very little resources available on animation. This was the time when DeviantArt was still very
Yeah.
so you just had to funnel through as many tutorials as you could, but they weren't all great. So I really appreciate that, Bobby's created Rise Up Animation, you have Schoolism, you have CGMA, you have all these online schools now that are a lot more accessible
Yes.
than, say, a private art college or even a public one. But I do want to thank you for having us. I've had a really good time.
Awesome.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody who came, especially those of you who are staying up way past your bedtimes. Remember to take care of your bodies, get some sleep, drink water, eat well, exercise.
Wear your
Not to be
masks.
too much of a mom. And then I think my last piece of advice, my parting piece, is to help each other, because no artist gets to where they want to go completely by themselves in isolation. No matter how talented you are, you could be the next Leonardo da Vinci. You still need a helping hand from time to time. I know I did. I had many helping hands. So it's really, really, really important to me to do stuff like this, because it's like paying all of those people that helped me, took time out of their day, their busy schedules when I was a student and they were a professional. I feel like I'm spiritually paying them back in a way. So yeah, look out for each other. There's plenty of art jobs out there.
Yeah.
And good luck to all of you.
Yes.
Awesome. Oh my gosh.
Bye.
That was great. Man, what a great sentiment to end out on. But all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, panelists. I don't think it's too much to say. I love you guys because I just met most of us, but I do really.
I think we make a great group.
Yeah.
Let's do this again sometime. Let's take this show on the road. Let's start charging people for it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Information should be free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. I don't know why I'm laughing like that. I don't usually laugh like that, but thank you very much for everybody for coming, and have a great weekend. Have a great Sunday. Wait, what day is it today?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. Hard to tell.
Wednesday. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you everyone for coming. And panelists, forever grateful. So thank you everybody.
We love you right back.
All right.
Yes, we do.
Love what you're doing,
Whoa,
Bobby.
you love me? That's too soon, Christine. Jeez. We just met.
Oh, I can't win.
Oh.
Can't win here. Can't win.
You can take my love, Bobby. Each other for a little bit.
Naveen, can we? Let's just virtual hug right now.
I'll just tap it.
Oh man, that felt good, Naveen. Ooh, you're warm. So dumb. Naveen's never gonna talk to me again. All right, everybody, take care.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks again.
Bye. 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 Bye.